Welcome to the Sport and Society Pod, aka the SAS. Each week we bring you 3 sport or society stories to break down and give our sassiest takes. With that, we do want to give you a content warning that some of the language used on the pod may be explicit. We just ask that you be mindful of where you're listening and who you're listening with that. With that, let's get into it. I'm here with my co-hosts, Arisan and Wahida. How we doing, ladies?
Hello. It's cold over here in the Pacific Northwest.
She says with a tank top on.
Yeah, it's because I got a heated blanket on my lap. I was
Nice.
pumping the
Context
space heater
counts. Yeah,
and my
context counts.
regular heat
Context
on.
matters.
I
Yeah.
got a little hot. And I'm drinking coffee. Palms are
Well,
sweaty.
It is cold here in the Pacific
Knees weak.
Northwest.
Sorry. I even said it wrong.
And this is why Chelsea's not a rapper. But it is cold here in the Pacific
Yeah, I might
Northwest.
read that.
And honestly, y'all, I feel like February has been going, I can't say quick, but there has been a lot happening in the last week. It's the, third day? But this past
As
week
of the recording of this.
has been bananas. And I feel like if we keep going at this pace, I'm not going to survive February. I'm not going to make it through.
Don't say that. Think about
Well,
the
and
comment.
January felt like 500 years. So,
It's
it
true.
feels really on track.
This is wild. Okay, anyway, before we get into the playbook for today, I want to go through a quick highlights moment. We'll cover a few sport and society highlights from this past week so our listeners feel like they are in the know with the sport and pop culture world. Here are some highlights that we won't be breaking down in depth, but think are worthy to know. And I can't make any promises because you know I love an extra fact. So
Yeah, you fucking do. I love that about you, though.
Come along with me on this journey. In local sports news, the Tacoma Rainiers have named Riley Pay as the new radio broadcaster for the team. With this appointment, she becomes the first female lead broadcaster in AAA. Go Riley.
Yes, Riley.
Awesome. I love a
We
good
love
Rainiers
that.
game, baseball, for those
Yeah,
that
I
don't know.
need a-
It's a real fun.
I need to
game.
make it to
I've
one.
never been, yeah. Maybe that's something we do this summer,
Let's
ladies.
do it.
We're going to make y'all hardcore baseball fans. Anyway, in Pacific Northwest native, Isaiah Thomas dropped 40 points in his G League season debut for the Salt Lake City Stars. For those that aren't familiar, the G League is a developmental minor league for the NBA. And Isaiah Thomas has been in the NBA, but he hasn't been on a team for a while.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I was going to
he's
say.
trying to work his way back in.
Okay. that makes
Really?
sense.
Wow, okay. That's cool.
I respect the hustle.
Exactly.
In the NBA, the trade that rocked not just the MNBA, but the basketball world, Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks has been traded to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis and a first-round pick. The reason why it's shocking, well, Luka Doncic is slated to be one of the future faces of the NBA, and he is just entering his prime. I think he turns 26 this month. And he recently led the Mavs to the NBA championship and the Western Conference Finals. So
Wild. This is
So
fucking crazy.
I was going to say, not only
I
was he
couldn't
kicked off
believe
his
that it was-
parents' insurance, but I think he's probably from a different, he's not from maybe. So it's like first kicked off his parents' insurance, then kicked
No,
off the name to the
he's
Lakers.
South American.
Fucked up.
He's-
But
he's
it's
a-
not true. It's not true.
Well, it's crazy that no one knew about it. This is done in the dark, blindsided. The reactions that folks and athletes were getting while their game is playing. This is crazy. And I know, Wahida, you love Luka in a Lakers jersey. That makes you so happy.
He's the worst guy. I hate it. So why couldn't he get traded to the Eastern Conference? Why did we have to keep him here? Anyway, I have a lot of thoughts about that. I hate to see it, but here we are. In more NBA news, the Jimmy Butler saga continues, and he has been suspended from the Miami Heat indefinitely. Mind you, he is the man that's been asking for a trade all season, and he still hasn't been traded. But who knows if we'll ever see him in a Heat jersey ever again.
What? So he's asking for a trade and they've just suspended him instead?
Yeah, because it's kind of like from the football, you
transfer
suspend
portal.
and then that changes your contract and whether or not how you get released in free agency. So it's kind of like a fuck you, from the team to be oh, you wanted to be and say you got traded, and it wasn't necessarily talking shit. He was just I need to find my joy back, in my opinion. And instead of them being okay, let's just release you. Let's not have this be a thing.
Yeah, it feels
They're
shady.
actually, we're gonna suspend you, and we're gonna keep you here indefinitely, but you're not allowed to play and all this shit. So
he's like Bell from Beauty and the Beast. He's stuck in the castle.
Wow, what a
Hopefully finds his
crossover. When
beast.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
hopefully finds his beast.
In women's basketball news, the WNBA free agency has been just as eventful as the NBA trade deadline. There's been a lot of roster moves, and the league will look completely different than it did this season. Most notably, the Connecticut Suns, who made it to the finals last season, have lost all of their starting five, including married teammates DeWanna Bonner and Alyssa Thomas. They're splitting up families. Okay, you guys?
Oh,
And
that's
additionally,
fucked up.
Brittany Griner, who was drafted by the Phoenix Mercury 11 years ago, so she's only been ever with this team, has now signed with the Atlanta Dream.
Yeah. Well, one, they made it to the playoffs, not the finals last year.
That's right.
And it was so funny because all the WNBA free agency was happening before the bomb dropping of the Luka Anthony Davis trade. And Asia Wilson of the Las Vegas Aces was like, she tweeted, and I thought it was so funny. She was like, NBA saw the WNBA trade deadline, was like, hold my beer. Because it was like, everyone was just like, what's happening? And then that happened. It was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Things are changing.
These are big names, too, that are being shifted around, right? Brittany Griner, we talked about Kelsey Plum and Jewel Lloyd last week. They were all first draft picks in their respective drafts. And then AD and Luka, too, being who he is. Like, these are big names that are being mixed up. Wild. This is why February it's already too much.
This is why we love sports, though, because it just changes shit up.
So much drama in the NBA. In related news, the WNBA, 2 bids have been submitted for WNBA expansion teams. WNBA legend Candace Parker and NFL great Peyton Manning are part of the group vying for a team in Tennessee, where they both went to college.
Cool.
They are proposing the team be called the Summit after Pat Summitt, former Lady Bulls head coach. And she's considered to be one of not just college basketball, women's basketball, but one of the greatest basketball coaches ever. So, really cool.
I love that.
Yeah, we've talked about her before.
Oh, yeah, because I'm obsessed with Pat Summitt. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with Candace Parker, Pat Summitt. I read her books. Like, she is an idol.
So we're rooting for that team to get instated. Then also, additionally, the Detroit Lions owner, Sheila Fordham, QB Golf, and Basketball Hall of Famer Grant Hill, who I love, are part of an ownership group hoping to bring back the WNBA to Detroit. So
Detroit or Tennessee.
It's cool to see like all the sports people come together too to like help it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I want Tennessee over Detroit for the 16th team slot. Sorry, Dallas or Detroit.
Sorry, Dallas. Throw them in the mix.
I mean, sorry, Dallas, too. They lost Luka this week, so sorry to them.
Sorry, Dallas. No, they didn't lose Luka. They fucking did that. That was Dallas's shit.
No, the fans didn't, though. The GM did. The fans weren't like, get Luka out of here. The GM threw them away.
He is like, I don't want to do that super max contract again. Get him out. Save us money.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark Cuban. Crazy.
He's not the majority owner anymore.
I just joke, Wade.
Oh, hey, sorry, my bad. I'm just saying, everyone's making that joke, and I'm like, y'all, it's not Mark Cuban, okay?
You know what? We're here to bring facts, all right?
Hard-hitting facts.
The truth.
Well, in exciting news, though, more exciting news, I guess, Asia Wilson and Caitlin Clark both had their jerseys retired at their respective alma maters on February 2nd, 2-2. South Carolina and the University of Iowa both hung, fun coincidence, the number 22 in their rafters this weekend.
Wait, wow. I didn't recognize the date. That's so cute.
Yeah, that's why I had to call it out.
That.
2-2. 22.
Very yeah, that's my number too. They stole it from me since I'm older than both of them.
It's true. They did.
It's
yours.
That's facts,
you can
actually.
Have it,
it's not rumor.
Yeah. But you know what I loved about that event was that Asia finally acknowledged, like, hard launched her relationship with Bam Adebayo. She was like,
she did?
My favorite Olympian from out of town is here too, and I'm so excited. It's so cute. I love that. I'm not a big fan
I love it.
of celebrity relationships, but they are my fave.
Bam is with the Miami Heat, which is the Jimmy Butler team. That's a little bit of crossover.
Good crossover there. In NFL news, this one's kind of
Don't skip the
sorry.
one that I think is super interesting.
I'm sorry. I read too quickly.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, speaking of Caitlin Clark, let's go back to her for a second. She will not be at the NBA All-Star Weekend this year. She was being vetted to compete in the three-point contest against Steph and Clay. I think Sabrina, Steph, Clay, Caitlin, but declined because she wants her first three-point contest to be at the WNBA All-Star in Indianapolis this summer.
I love that because one, she's like, actually, let's stay with the WNBA too. And the NBA is like, actually, we need people to watch All-Star Weekend because we've been sucking in the last few years. So let's
100%.
get Caitlin Clark to come over to get the viewership. And she's like, nah, I'm going to stick over here. You guys have to find another interesting way to get viewership up. Now you want to use women to get your viewership up.
Yeah. And I think some of the players were even like, we'll come to the WNBA All-Star game to kind of balance it out. And we're like, no,
nah.
we don't need you.
No.
Nothing. Stay in your corner. Okay, now we can move into NFL news. This one's
Yeah, thank you for humoring me.
Bummer. But Baltimore Ravens kicker Justin Tucker is facing allegations of sexual misconduct from 9 different massage therapists. I read the reports, and all I'm going to say is Justin needs to tuck his thing away, or he needs a swift kick to the family jewels because this is so gross. So bad.
That's fucked up.
That is fucked up.
Damn.
Him getting kicked? No.
No. Him being a weirdo.
Yeah, him being a weirdo is bad.
Him being kicked? Are you kidding me?
You're like, I'll sign up.
Damn,
I'll do it.
I'll do it. Yeah. Fuck. Allegedly. What?
A 9 is a big number.
That's
for
a lot.
alleged.
Yeah, it's not a coincidence.
No. Allegedly, I'd kick him. Just to clarify. I'm trying not to give myself.
Wow,
but...
we're going off track here.
Right, let's get us back on track. In more NFL news, this is a little bit exciting, I guess. The Eagles will play the first ever NFL game in Australia in 2026 against the Rams.
That's fucking wild type of travel for one NFL game. Yeah. Oh, that's crazy.
I get that they don't play
NFL needs to chill.
Yeah, they play once a week, so they have the time for it, but still, that messes up your whole body. Like Australia.
It takes 2 days to get there.
I know.
Let's go.
The NBA recently played a game in Paris this past week or last week. And that was already, 9 hours of travel, 10 hours of travel, and now you're going to Australia? That's wild to me. Calm down. We have streaming services for that reason.
True.
Australia has, I think that's so interesting because Australia has a big sports culture, like rugby, footy games. I was forgetting the official names. And they've got huge ass stadiums. Footy games.
They do have huge ass stadiums.
I went to a footy game, and they've got huge ass cricket. So it's kind of like NFL and chill. NFL, stay in your lane.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Well, they're not going to. They're going there in 2026.
How American of them.
Yeah. Speaking of American, Buffalo Wild Wings has announced that they will offer free wings to everyone if the Super Bowl goes into overtime. I didn't read that. That's cool.
Yeah, I just read that randomly on NPR or something this morning. And I was like, hell yeah. It's a way to get me in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're hoping that they go into overtime, and we're still hoping the Eagles win.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Just Eagles. For the record, I have changed my stance from last week, and I am with the crew. Eagles win.
Hell yeah.
Our cousins.
It's welcome. Yeah. Our cousin.
Yeah.
Let's go, fam.
Y'all know why, okay? Y'all know why.
In society news, we want to take a moment first to send thoughts to the families of those who lost their lives in this week's airplane crashes. There were a few. We can't address every tragedy, but the flight crashing was one of the worst plane crashes in U.S. history in the past 20 years. And I know there were a few, sending our loves to all of the families, but there were a few stories that came out about a few figure skaters, U.S. figure skaters, I think Russian figure skaters as well, that perished in the crash. And we want to, just send our love to them. They were young.
So sad. So young, so much ahead of them too.
Yeah. Cool. Take a breather after that one. An Emmy Award winner, Anna Sawai of Shogun, we love her, is reportedly being eyed to play Yoko Ono in Sam Mendes' 4 Beatles movies. I didn't know there were 4.
4 Beatles?
4 Beatles movies. Are
Oh.
each of them getting a movie?
Well, fuck, I don't know. Damn. I thought it was just one movie.
We'll find out.
This
but
is a developing story here
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah.
we'll report.
We researched
We'll
this
keep you
highlight. We're
updated.
above.
We'll let you know.
But in another blockbuster movie, Elliot Page has joined the star-studded cast of Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey.
I told you that cast was stacked.
Crazy. This movie
Like,
better
all
be
of
the best
Hollywood.
movie of the fucking decade.
That's
Crazy.
It's got to be. I mean, with that cast and that director, it's probably going to be. This one is a doozy, and we're all excited for it. Beyonce announced the Cowboy Carter tour. No dates have been released. She did
They
release
have
the
as
cities.
of this morning.
The
the
dates
cities.
the cities have
Yeah,
been released, right?
The two. If you go on to Ticketmaster this morning, you can see the days too.
Oh, okay.
No Seattle, unfortunately. I wasn't really anticipating it, but I think there's only like 16 tour days or tour
She's adding more. We all know she's adding more. Come on.
I hope.
She's
but
just,
then she
she's
also
just a
goes
little
to
teaser.
She's going to Europe though, so it's going to be like when, you know.
Yeah, I also wouldn't blame her if she decided not to, because she went on a full world tour and
You're fucking
she needs a break, I feel.
Yeah.
But shout out to Beyonce, and we're gonna talk a little bit more because she had a great night last night too. So,
oh hell yeah!
Someone who did not have a great night, the Associated Press interviewer, issued an apology to Babyface for cutting his Grammy red carpet interview short. Don't know. I think I sent the clip to you all. What did you?
No, tell folks what happened.
Okay. So,
yeah, I think
two
context.
Associated Press interviewers were talking to Babyface, legend, 13-time Grammy-winning legend, on the red carpet. Chapel Roan walks by, and they kind of yelled over him to call Chapel over. And so Babyface kind of just like scoots his way off the screen, was like, okay, he was in the middle of a sentence and they just cut him off to start interviewing. Start interviewing Chapel.
I hate that. It makes me so angry. And this is what I was going to say. This is going to be under fire, but I think Chapel Roan's overrated.
Oh, I think you thought you were going to offend me with that. I like her. I'm not like, I'm not going to die.
I thought I was going to offend you with that. I was so pissed off, and I was like, really? That's disgusting.
Yeah,
and
I don't
she's
like
overrated.
that it was mid-sentence. Like, it just like, I think she's really talented, but I just feel like he's such a legend. And then I just feel like the way that they did it was just so shitty. Like, it's fine that they were excited to talk to her or whatever, but I felt like he was so nice about it. Like, he was just like, oh, okay. And kind of like moved
you
off.
Go and do that. He said, you
it was like the nicest way. If someone had done that to me, I'd be like, okay, bye. Like,
that was wild. I think it hits even harder because he is a legend and he's like one of the leads for one of the sections of the Grammy like Academy, right? But I think if they had done that to anyone, it would have been bad. But it hits even harder because it was freaking Babyface.
Yeah, you're right. If it was anybody, it would have been shitty.
That was just really unprofessional, I feel.
Never mind. I'm not going to bring that angle to it. But I also feel like it just like calls out too, like, you know, he's a black man, she's a white woman, and it was like easy to just silence and like dismiss and be like, oh, here, you should step aside for this woman. This white woman. It just like felt like that was another layer of it, of like, would 100%. You have done the same thing if it was, I don't want to compare him to, but like a Justin Bieber, like or like a white, you know what I mean? Like male, like would that have been the same thing you would have done? Probably not, is my assumption. And that's a lot of assumptions, but that's what I thought.
I don't think maybe you're alone in that thought.
Yeah.
How's that?
I agree. But some exciting news that came out of last night, though. That one was bad. This one is good. Lady Gaga debuted a new single and music video for Abracadabra during the Grammys last night. Lady Gaga is set to release a new album titled Mayhem on March 7th.
Were you confused when that was happening?
Yes.
Because I didn't understand. I thought it was a cell phone commercial, and then all of a sudden it kept going.
I was in the same boat. I thought it went to commercial, and I text Chelsea. I text the group. I was like, "Is this a music video? Because it's still going."
Are you talking about the flower commercial comment?
No, that was funny too, though.
Oh, okay. Well, what a huddle, Wahida. I am looking forward to today's playbook. This huddle, I think, was almost a story of its own. But before we get into today's playbook, I do want to make a correction. This might be the last time we let Wahida write the huddle notes.
I don't know. I liked it, man.
It was fun. I enjoyed myself. I want to do a little correction of something I said last week about Saquon Barkley. It wasn't that bad. My brain is a little confused and tired. I said that he was drafted. I think I said the Buffalo Bills, but he was actually the New York Giants. Sometimes those teams in my brain, I just like flip flop because of their team colors, and they're both from New York. Exactly. And I know, and like Buffalo Bills really haven't been that great. Listen, in recent history, not this last year.
Whoa! Just feel
like gonna say the team colors are not the same though. The Jets are green. Buffalo Bills are like blue and red.
No, you're so right.
New York Giants. Did I say Jets?
Giants. Yes.
To be honest with you, this is exactly like illustrating
the New York
point.
Giants.
Do you know
Did
what
I
mean?
say
like
the Jets?
I don't know. At this point, I just know there's two teams in New York.
I actually think you said the Giants, but I heard Jets in my brain because why are there so many freaking teams in New York? Let's go there.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Arizona.
That's okay. So Saquon Barkley was drafted by the New York Giants, not the Buffalo Bills, and we hope he's winning a Super Bowl here soon. So with that, I'm going to transition to today's playbook.
Finally, we're getting there, guys.
Which could be real or not. No,
we're going to start by recapping all that went down on the Grammys this past weekend, and then we'll discuss the impact and effects of influencer athlete exclusive brand deals. Whoa. And lastly, we'll finish by giving you all the latest on the U.S. women's new rugby league getting debuted. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Chelsea to kick us off with our first topic.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk about this because last night was everything and more to me. But first, I just kind of want to give like a little shout out to the Grammys because not only was it a moment for, all the artists that were nominated, but I feel like they did a really good job of kind of bringing light on what happened to LA with the fires and supporting the community. So not only were they showing us all the words, all the fancy outfits, everyone's performances, but it was also raising funds to support wildfire relief efforts and aid music professionals impacted by the wildfires. I don't think they've released the total of like how much was donated, but there were like QR codes on the TV. There were QR codes at all of the tables for all the artists. There were all of the boxes up for any of the corporate sponsors. But as of last night, like what they told us, it was at least 7 million in donations alone. Wow. That's not the total, but that's just what they released to us. So I feel like that number is probably going to climb. And it was kind of funny because Trevor Noah was like, CBS, like you're telecasting this, and then they ended up doing a big donation. So it was kind of fun that he put it in as a joke, and then they actually followed through and did that. So love to see that. I think it's also important maybe to go through like awards, how you win, what some of the rules are before we announce some of the big categories. So in order to be eligible for this season's Grammy Awards, you needed to release a recording between September 16th, 2023 and August 30th of 2024. So it was kind of a while ago since we're now in 2025. And then the voting process is pretty complex. And I'm going to try to give us the like most high level explanation as possible. There could be a whole episode on how this works. But to like break it down, what happens is basically in the summer, teams, recording groups, they submit bodies of work on behalf of the artist in the summer. So fun fact, there's around 20,000 submissions entered each year. So imagine like sifting through that. The committees then go through and screen that all the submissions that were entered actually meet the requirements for the categories that they were submitted. So you could totally submit and then not meet the requirements. So they go through and make sure that that's happening. Once everyone's in their categories, the Academy voting members that are in good standing get a ballot to vote for what become the Grammy nomination. So it's that Academy voting members that then kind of pick what those nominations are. And then those nominations, the voting Academy members then again kind of vote on that smaller list. And this part confuses me, but voting members get to vote in up to 10 categories across 3 genre fields. And in the genre fields, plus 6 categories. So I took that from the Grammys website. This one I'm telling you, it could be a whole episode to describe what that means, but they get to vote on those smaller lists. So that's a lot. I think before we get into the awards too, it's important to remember that there are some voting guidelines. So they're not rules, but the Academy does kind of say, hey, this is what's important to remember while you vote. So 1, you may not vote based on, or you have to vote based on artistic and technical merit, not sales, chart performance, or personal preferences, which I feel like I've been guilty of arguing all 3. I'm part of those for reasons why I feel like people win.
The Billboard Awards are for chart performances.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Not the Grammys. But I feel like that's lost sometimes. Like even myself, like that will be lost on me where I'm like, oh, they were, this. And then it's like, well, that's not what this is. Voters are also encouraged to vote in areas of their expertise. So it doesn't mean you have to, but you should try to vote in what like your category that you're an expert in. And then you cannot accept gifts, which seems like a little bit of a crossover with sports, like don't accept gifts or bribes or things like that. So
good job.
Thank you. I tried to cross over hard. But I'll take us like it was a 3.5 hour fucking show. Okay. So it was a long ass show, beautiful performances. But what I'm going to do is just go through the big 4 awards, which are like just known across, I don't know, the community, what those are. It's Album of the Year, Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Best New Artist. So Album of the Year was Cowboy Carter Beyonce. I was so excited. Like, yay, finally. It's her first win for that. I don't know how many times she's been nominated, at least 4.
Yeah.
In the last 8 years. So I'm assuming more than that. But stunning. So excited about that. Then Record of the Year and Song of the Year went to Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar. And that was everything to me.
I love
it. Like, not your diss track, like literally getting Grammys right before you perform it at the Super Bowl and just embarrass the F out of Drake.
Your diss track winning the same amount of awards that Drake has total. It was
Live, laugh, love that.
I feel like we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
But what's the difference between Record of the Year and Song of the Year?
I can't.
I feel like we talked about it and I can't remember. It has something to do with like a music video? No?
No.
I don't know.
Here's the deal. I couldn't get there.
They're practically the same thing, right? Same but different?
Okay. Record of the Year deals with the specific recording of a song, recognizes all of the people involved. So the artists, the producers, engineers, and everything. Like Song of the Year deals with the composition of the song and recognizes the songwriters who wrote the song.
Oh.
So the record is like the whole thing.
That makes sense then for the win.
Just like the songwriting, not songwriting, but like the composition of the song. That makes sense.
That's interesting that they separate it like that.
It's kind of cool.
So confusing.
It makes still hella confusing. And then the last of the 4 was Best New Artist that went to Chappell Roan. So I thought like overall good night. It felt, I don't know, I kind of almost felt like some of the people who were presenting, you could almost predict who was going to win. Like I was when Beyonce, or when was it Miley Cyrus? No, who was it? Whatever.
Miley
now
Cyrus
I'm like fucking it up.
Up there for Song of the Year. And then I think Taylor was up there for Album of the Year, right?
Yeah, for Country Album of the Year, yeah. And she introduced Beyonce. So it was just like, it was fun to see who was presenting and giving what awards. Sometimes I felt like, I feel like now I know who's going to win based on who's presenting a little bit. That's how I felt. Like I wasn't completely shocked. I did kind of feel like maybe when Diana Ross came out, it was going to be Beyonce for that. Because hello, Diana Ross, but whatever. We got an iconic moment from her. And then I'll just say best performance. We got a lot of good fucking performances last night. Like I was tuned the fuck in for that. But my favorite was Doechii. Like that has to be maybe like a top 10 performance for me ever. She's an athlete. Like the way that she was dancing like that and could keep her voice sounding like so fresh and under control. Like it didn't feel like she was doing all the movement and dancing that she was doing. So I was just like completely blown away and now completely obsessed. But what did you think? I know
100%.
Wahida, you were tuned in. I don't know, Arizona seemed like maybe like not, but
you
So
all
I'll
were
just see.
popping off, y'all, in the group chat while I was at a basketball tournament. So I was like, at first, I was like, I didn't even remember that the Grammys were going on, and I'm like, what are you guys all talking? You're talking about this flower commercial and like Kanye West, and I was like, what? Am I missing something?
Most
And
random
then it was the
conversation.
Grammys, and it's actually really hard to follow group chat when you guys are live
Oh, yeah.
reacting to something on TV that you're not seeing. So I'm like, I don't get any of this, and no. So that's about. I'm glad Beyonce finally won Album of the Year. That's awesome.
Yeah.
The Kendrick Lamar thing is awesome. I think I'll probably go and like look at some of the performances because those sound really fun. But I'm not really on social media, so I didn't. I looked up the Kanye West,
Red
his
carpet
wife or
thing?
girlfriend, the
Wife,
naked
yeah.
outfit. That was weird. That was.
Is it an outfit if you're naked? Like you have no clothes on. That's not an outfit.
Yeah, she was wearing a latex condom in my mind.
Still not an outfit. Anyway.
It's a statement. How's
yeah,
that?
I guess. I don't know what she's trying to say, but Aristan, I would say go if you can, like on YouTube or whatever, find the performances, especially the best new artist performances, because they went to fucking town. And I would say the best
Yeah.
part of the night, and that's where Doechii performed. And I feel like I don't know if they could have ever done this in the past or if they could do it in the future. But this class of best new artists, where
Yeah.
they were the right people to do this for. Like they've never had all the best new artists perform at the show all at once, and they all did
That's
their
cool.
own thing, and it was really good. Teddy Swims, your boy, was also performing, and he,
He had a cool
showed
ass
his
jacket
vocal
on.
pipe. Yep.
Yeah, he's good.
So I would say that was probably my favorite part of the night, like just being able to see them all kind of show what they could do. It also made me really excited about like the future of music, because like we haven't had that in a long time. And I would also say like the Grammys this year hit the like nail on the head as far as like who won which categories. I think none of it was like a surprise, I feel, or
Yeah.
a letdown. You know what I mean? Like they just tens across the board with it. But I do want to give a shout out. Speaking of best new artist, I learned that Benson Boone is from Washington. He's from Monroe, Washington.
Oh.
I did not know that. So
Yeah.
shout out to the
Man, he
local
did a fucking
kid.
flip off the piano.
My
last
parents
night.
went to
know.
his concert.
Really? I love
Mhm.
that.
That's cute.
Yeah, they loved it.
I love it.
He's got pipes.
Great show all around. That's all I have to say. I was tuned in too because it was just really good. No complaints on my end. And
The last thing. Oh no, go.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
The last thing I was going to say, it was really cool that they brought back The Weeknd. Like The Weeknd had said, they kind of went through and talked about how he was like, there's no transparency in the voting process. Like I boycotting, like I think 2019 maybe. And I can't speak because I'm not the Academy, and I clearly have been struggling trying to even explain the voting process still. But it seems like they've made a concerted effort to make changes, so much so that they then brought The Weeknd back and he was willing to perform last night. And I just thought that was a cool way to like circle back that story.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of cool. You were at first it was like, wow, you just called him out like that. And then I was like, he has to be showing up. Otherwise, that's shady as fuck.
Arison, they had the president of the Academy on stage, like talking through all of this, like, you know, these are the changes that we've made. And they splashed across all of the screens, like every headline of The Weeknd calling them out. And I was like, why are they putting The Weeknd on blast like this? Like, he's not even
It was
there.
kind of crazy at
It was
first.
so funny. I was like, well, okay. I will have to just like, this is your girl. She's not normally my lane. But Taylor Swift last night was a freaking hoot. She was so funny. Like,
I fucking love her.
when Kendrick won his award, I think the last one, they cut to her after Mustard said, bring out the brooms. And she was miming sweeping. She was like, yep, sweep it up. And then I learned, like, midway through the show, she had that jacket on. I didn't know where it came from. Do you know where it was from? Did you catch it?
Mm-hmm.
It was Janelle Monáe's jacket that she ripped off during her
fuck yeah.
performance. Taylor picked it up. There's a clip of her picking it up and putting it on, and she wore it the rest of the night. So I just had fun watching her. I think I always have fun watching her in the crowd. She isn't normally like the genre of music I listen to. She doesn't make music for me, but I love seeing her out and about. She's fun.
She loves a good awards. I've seen her
She
say
does.
before is like on so many of those shows, people are all like worried and like tight, and like she's like, when do I get to go to a concert where like some of the best artists in the industry get to perform? Like,
Yeah.
hell yeah, I'm having fun. I don't care if I look weird or silly or people are laughing
Yeah,
at me.
good on
I'm there to
her.
have the time of my life.
it's true.
Yeah, she did. She looked like she did.
Fucking did.
But one of my other favorite things from last night, and this will kind of transition us into the next conversation, but I really appreciated, and this is where we start talking about commercials. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? But the Grammys really made a concerted effort to spotlight like local businesses, and they
Yeah.
even showed commercials from local businesses in partnership with different artists, which is really cool because we see them all the time with all these big names and those partnerships happening. So it's nice to shine a light on some of the local small companies,
True.
especially because some of these bigger names, these bigger companies are showing their ass and they are really effing up royally. But I don't know if you've heard recently, some of you may have heard or not, but recently, some of the companies are just not supporting partnerships they used to. They're even rolling back programs that specifically were created to promote Black and brown like businesses. And the rollout or the rollback of all of that sparked some public backlash. So there's calls to protest and calls to like boycott some of these companies, Target specifically in this case. And Tabitha Brown, who is an influencer, I don't know if you all are familiar with her, but she really came to like, you know, rose to fame, I guess, during the pandemic because she was just all about caring for yourself, honoring who you are, being true to who you are. And I loved her. But she had a really large partnership with Target and she addressed the situation head on and was saying like, you know, these partnerships have done a lot for Black and brown creators. Target's actions do not necessarily reflect us, and it also would hurt us to boycott the company overall. So that got me thinking because I'm over here like as a consumer, where do I go? Like I want to support Tabitha Brown and you know other artists like her or creators like her, but also there's like this dilemma here. But I'm curious to hear like what you all think about it too, and like what do we do as consumers of all of this, the music, the sports, and all of that. But let's start with the perks and pitfalls of brand deals first and foremost. We talked about NILs, and they're kind of in the same umbrella. But first and foremost, the perks for brand deals, like athletes and influencers, no doubt, gain financial security through their regular, like beyond their regular salary from these brand deals. Like if you even look at some of the biggest names in like athletic world, LeBron James made 61% of his earnings from endorsements.
Jesus Christ.
He already makes a shitload of money, but 61% of that was from endorsements alone. Tiger Woods, another big name, made 97% of his income from endorsements. And like, these are athletes, they're going to be fine, right? Like they're going to be fine if these brand deals fall through. But a lot of the influencers in particular, like rely on this as their primary source of income. So it's hard when they get stuck in a sticky situation. And the pitfalls, I mean, we talk about like how it can get challenging when you get stuck between a rock and a hard place. And like if athletes or influencers behave in a certain way that is counter to the brand's image, the brand could drop them. Like drop them like yesterday's news. They don't care anymore. But it's really hard for them to do the opposite, like the reverse of that. I mean, we've seen it happen several times, right? Where brands have dropped athletes because of different behaviors. And I feel like some of that is also difficult to measure because it's all subjective. Like what is moral behavior? It's subjective, right? But we've seen it happen several times. So let me go through some of the big ones that I think you guys probably will recall. Lance Armstrong lost his deals with Nike, Oakley, and Trek that totaled roughly $150 million after his doping scandal. Tiger Woods lost deals with AT&T, Gatorade, and Buick, which was about $22 million after his personal, I think, infidelity scandal. And then Magic Johnson, another big name, lost potential deals with Target and Converse, which would equate to about $25 million in lost opportunities after his HIV announcement. That one was a rough one. And like they usually happen because of morality causes, which lets brands like kind of just bail on the athlete if their reputation takes a hit. And then, you know, like I said, if the athletes land these deals, I feel like it's fine. It's a lot more difficult for influencers to do so. And I don't know, I just feel like it creates a double standard in this whole world. When the brands can exit quickly, but the athletes or the influencers cannot, they're kind of stuck. And I feel like with more companies showing their asses, like more companies are just coming out and just not saying very great things. I feel like there'll be a bit of a shift in how like athletes and influencers kind of seek out what deals that they go for or sign up for. We might see looser like deals, pay per contracts, and as opposed to like long-term contracts. But I don't know. That just got me thinking about like what that means for folks, especially younger folks coming in through the industry. We talked about NIL, like they're coming in so young, and I think we talked about a high schooler who got an NIL deal. Like, what does that mean long term for them? But I'm curious what you guys think about it and like how you look at it as a consumer. Sorry, there's a little bit of a womp womp one, but it's a big topic.
It's a good one. It's a good one. I'm just trying to figure out how the fuck I feel about it.
I think for talking about, I think as consumers, we forget how much power we have in how we spend. And it can be really easy to see like the headlines of what certain big companies are doing and feel kind of depressed and upset, rightfully. And then at the same time, what I think is interesting is people get upset over that, but then people don't actually make changes in their habits to spend like it matters and kind of put their money where their mouth is because of convenience. And I think there is a balance. And I think the more we know brands and are familiar with certain brands and know where they're at, that kind of makes it easier. So, you know, the blanket boycotts like come from a big union family. Like, man, I was like boycotting and like doing stuff when I was like, since I was a kid, like before I like understood I wasn't allowed TY baby, like Beanie Babies, Coca-Cola, like not going into Walmart, like shit, like that's how I was like raised. So there is power in like boycotts. And I think the point of understanding with some of these big companies, what they do too, is they can also make exclusive partnerships and brand deals, which is one can feel nice for certain people because it allows, you know, bigger money. And then their names like or their products are in a store. But then two, what that happens is that eliminates kind of their freedom of choice as where their product goes, because then all of a sudden they're only in say like Target or they're only in like Walmart, and then that puts them in a really hard spot that when all of a sudden the company does something that they don't agree with, it's directly tied to their livelihood and their business, and that's a really hard place to be. So I've definitely seen things where it's like maybe just be more conscious if you're like, okay, a total boycott of Target may not be what I want to do. Maybe make sure you're only buying from like small brands or like local brands that are in Target, and don't buy like Target brand shit. I think also with athletes, what's really interesting is like, I think one that really sticks out to me is Allison Felix, who's a track and field. She was with Nike, and then Nike pretty much dropped her because she had a baby, and which is like really messed up because she wasn't like right with the image, like all the things that are associated with that. So then she was like, "Oh, fuck you."
Any other company, you would get shit for that. You know what I mean?
No,
like, you can't do that. She's protected class.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing with like brand deals and partnerships. It's different. I mean, Nike did get a lot of shit for it. I think at one point they tried to like ask her to come back and like correct it, and she was like, "Fuck you guys," and then she went and started her own shoe line. I think also, especially when we're talking about women's sports and women athletes, why it's really great seeing some of these women's leagues putting more money out there is because brands and sponsorships are how they're like getting most of their money. Like, brand partnerships for like LeBron is most of his endorsements, but he would be fine without those endorsements because his salary is so high in the NBA. Whereas like the WNBA salary is shit for the most part. And so those big names need those partnerships and those deals. And so when we talk about like boycotting or talking about big companies, is you have to understand too, I think sometimes people, athletes or people that have these partnerships can get like all of a sudden they're the ones getting attacked when the big companies are the ones doing the like the awful acts. And then they're like, well, you're supporting Target or you're supporting Nike because you're a Nike athlete. And it's like, hold up. They're like in a way more tighter, like, a way, like they're in this in a way that like their livelihood's tied to this. They don't probably have an out contractually, and the way that companies can drop them for moral, like, I don't think there's usual moral clauses unless that's being added the other way around if the company did something immoral, right?
Yeah.
And so I think with any kind of issue like this and brand deals is you gotta like not jump to attack and like take a step back of like where does this like root down to, you like the positioning that they're in, if they're stuck. And like also when you talk about kids coming up, even like young athletes coming up that are in like their 20s and stuff that maybe have never seen this kind of money before, and then all of a sudden you want to judge them because they're not at a company that has like high morals, and it's like, fuck off, fuck you for like saying that shit, because
it's like a lot to put on them.
Because like, you know? I mean, like shit, like I would question if all of a sudden we came in and Target was like, hey, I'll give you $10 million right now if you will do this one thing and be an exclusive partnership. I'd be like, oh, Target, I think this is fucked up. But $10 million, I could do a lot with that. You know what I mean? Like, I think people can be quick to be like high horse, but then it's like at the end of the day, that's that's a significant amount of money. That's a significant opportunity. I'm not saying there's like a wrong or right, but I just think there's so many layers to this that when people jump on things, and especially when it's usually the people that are getting called are like Black and brown and minority communities are the ones that are getting the most flack, when it's like actually what Target's fucking doing and all these big companies are doing and rolling back their DEIs are the ones that should be really under fire, and they should be the only ones under fire. And I will get off my high horse now.
No,
we love just to,
yeah, well, I liked it. I was like snapping.
Preach.
You know, I was silent for a reason. How's that? But the only thing I'll say on top of that too is just like as a consumer, like I think it's very individual, and I think some of this talk that happens like at the high level of like you see the headline and you need to like drill down and say, okay, like what can I do? Because like what I feel like often happens is like there becomes a movement on whatever way you fall about the issue, and it's going to be like, we're all going to do these things, and if you don't do it, then we're going to attack. And like that's what I don't like about it is like, don't, like if I run into a friend, they've got a Starbucks at Target, I'm not gonna be like, oh wow, so you don't support. They might not fucking know what the hell I'm talking about. Like, what if they're off social media? Like, what if they're not even involved in sports at all, or whatever this controversy, like, I don't know. They could be completely not in the know about it. And so I feel like we have to pull back and figure out like, what can you do? And when you start making those choices, the people around you will then either want to, one, be curious and learn about it, and then maybe inspire a little change in them too. But the attacking of like other people, whether it's the consumer, the athlete, or the brand, like we got to take back our own power, and it's got to be by actual legitimate action, not just words. And that's what I would say about it.
Yeah. And get rid of and be okay with the inconvenience. I think that's when things like Amazon and stuff make it so easy, and it's like, well, it's just so easy and I can't find. And it's like some of the things to make change and create action is like, yeah, it might be a little bit
uncomfortable for you. Yeah,
it might be uncomfortable, but like that means that's good. Like if you're uncomfortable, then like lean into that and go do that. And like,
yeah.
And there's a level of privilege.
Happening.
There's also a level 100%. Of privilege that we have to acknowledge. Like there's some people are not like. You have to remember these big companies have been spending years now buying out smaller people so that they're the only option. So say you're in a rural area and that's the only option you have to get X, Y, and Z. that's not going to be the sword I die on. I'm not going to be like, wow,
Right.
I can't believe you didn't drive 40 miles. Like it cost you whatever, depending on what, all kinds of things. Like I'm not going to die on that. But if there's like people that I know in my circle, I might be like, hey,
try this out.
You know, why don't we try here over instead? Harrison, you made a really good point about like, specifically like younger athletes, but any women, like female athletes that, are able to kind of propel like their like, you know, I don't want to say status, but like their lives through these exclusive brand partnerships. And that I think we shouldn't be so quick to kind of question that, because I also think about how like Tabitha Brown even mentioned this in her statement. She was like, you know, like we were able to kind of create a change here within the company, right? Like we think about like DEI programs even within companies. And I say that as a practitioner, right? Like you go in, company's not going to be perfect, but you're going in hoping to create change from the inside out too. So like, I think a lot of folks, which I really appreciate, are folks that like sign up for these exclusive brand deals, and they're really trying to shift the kind of conversation to shine light on some of the things that the company might have done wrong, or like have done wrong in the past. And that's really cool, where they're able to leverage their name, their celebrity, and like you were saying, Chelsea, take back the power and say, I'm signed to this, but I am only doing this so that we could talk about these things that I also care about. So that's also really cool.
Yeah. So with that,
the more you know,
it's a big topic.
It's a doozy.
It's a doozy. There's not a right answer. But on that note, I think I'm going to wrap us up and move us to our final story, which is a little bit happier, a little bit lighter. Love that for us. And I'm talking about the Women's Elite Rugby Team, or WER, WER for short. Yeah, that's what their acronym is. It's the first professional women's rugby union competition in the U.S., and it was announced last spring, so I think April, and is set to play its inaugural season this year, starting in March 2025. So it's made up of 6 teams and 180 players. For those that are like rugby, kind of getting more connected to the rugby world, I think what is really, and I don't think it's the only one. I think there's a lot of different factors, but you all know Alona Mar, who's, you know, the U.S. rugby team got a bronze medal in the Olympics, which was huge. She was on Dancing with the Stars. She's like, talk about influencer. I think really going off of that influence and popularity from the Olympics, it's like been really great. She's currently playing professionally in UK, but who knows? Maybe she gets to come back and play in the US. What's really exciting is the I don't know how we're saying the WER, but the league said, this is from the league, said it will be full of inspiring, fearless women athletes and fierce action that will take place on the pitch throughout the season. The league hopes to redefine the perception of rugby, challenging norms and ideals, and creating space for women to discover new role models and showcase their unique strengths.
I love that.
Love that.
How can we not get behind this mission? What was interesting, and this is a little bit of a beef of the week for me.
Say it.
So we have a men's major league rugby in the U.S. It started in 2018, and it currently has 12 teams. And one of them being our local team, the Seawolves. Yeah, my parents are big Seawolves fans. I've gone to rugby games and stuff.
We need to go with them.
Yeah, here's my beef of the week, though. I am so sick of all these men's teams. Yeah, also love songs being major league, and then when a new women's league has to come, they have to be the women's like elite rugby, because the men were always like major league rugby. So that is one of my biggest.
NBA. That's why we're calling it the NBA now.
Exactly. It's like the, you know,
the men's national
major league soccer, and then it's like women's major league soccer, and all that shit. It pisses me off so hard. I would love for us to either change all the men's leagues names to put men in front of all of it. So then I'm like, okay, I don't have a problem if you're calling out the women's league, but call it out for the men's league too. So like you said, make it the MNBA. And so that is my beef of the week, because I saw that while I was doing this thing, and I was like, of course they have to, again, because men were like, well, we don't have to put men's in front of it because
it's implied. Fuck off.
It's implied. Fuck off. But anyways, according to Forbes, the WER is building on the foundation of the Women's Premier League, which is the amateur pay-to-pay league that has been the most prominent women's rugby union competition for about 50 years. So I just wanted to shout that out, because this is like there's a foundation here, right? Like, even though it's like inaugural and it's first, one thing that's really cool is each of the teams, so they announced started with 6 teams, have front office staff that paid on a full-time basis. So for a lot of times with launching leagues like this, they have part-time staff, or they don't have full-time staff, or they barely have even staff. So I think it's really cool is they're already trying to be like, we want this to be like putting their money where their mouth is, in my opinion. Like, if you want this to actually grow and be a thing that people watch, then you need the support, and you need the people around that can actually make this grow and make this organization run. And also kind of gearing up for that, because, you know, the LA Olympics are in 2028. So that's going to be another thing for rugby. And then the U.S. is also hosting in 2033 the Women's Rugby World Cup. So rugby, I have watched some rugby games. I don't know if you guys watch some Olympic games. I don't know all the rules yet, because there's like complicated. My mom is a huge rugby fan, so she's always trying to tell me.
She can teach us.
But it's so fun. It's like football meets football, soccer. Kind of, but like they're not in full pads, and they're like tackling each other, and it's like fast, and like there's you know, scrums where they're all like in. It's a fun sport. But what's most fun, and I think the marketing agency that helped create this is wild. So they just announced this like last week, the 6 teams' names and the logos. And I ask, if you haven't already, to go right now and look at these logos, because honestly, it has got me already a fan of certain teams based on the names and the logos alone. So the 6 teams,
I know what
they're the Bay Breakers, the Boston Banshees, the Chicago Tempest, Denver Onyx, New York Exiles, and then Twin Cities Gemini. And they for each of the teams, they were like, wanted to connect the team to the city and the history and eye-catching color. So the Bay Breakers is a tie to the coastline of the Bay. Boston Banshees is keeping with a rich history of rebellion in the city. And like, you know, a banshee is a female spirit of Irish Celtic folklore whose shrieks signal impending doom.
Ooh,
like, this is all from they're on the Chicago Tempest, the tie to the extreme weather of the Windy City. And the Chicago Tempest plan to bring destruction, power, and unyielding challenge on the pitch to their opponents. And then the Denver Onyx has a rich history of mining for rare gems and metals, and the team takes its name from the Colorado Rose Onyx, a gem featured in the foundation of the Colorado State Capitol building.
Interesting.
And then the New York Exiles, it's actually referencing the Emma Lazarus poem, The New Colossus. The Statue of Liberty is known as the Mother of Exiles and as a landmark for opportunity. And then the TC Gemini is representing the Twin Cities, and with individual distinction but a common community thread and culture. The team name is the Gemini, and it refers to the zodiac sign of the twins and is represented by intertwined snakes, mimicking the way that the Mississippi River winds through Minnesota.
Holy fuck.
So it's like badass. So I was just like curious, looking at the logos, and everyone listening, go check out these logos, because honestly, some sports logos, like, was it like Toronto's WNBA team?
So sad.
And other teams that have been like launching their like team logos and brands have been like, they fucking killed all 6 of these.
They're badass. They're so badass.
Yeah.
I saw them initially. I didn't read all of like the caption, like the rationale behind any of them. But even right off the bat, I lived in Boston for a while, so I'm gonna go with the Boston Banshees. And then after hearing that that little blurb about the impending doom, you're gonna fuck everyone up is all I know. So like, these are incredible. I'm sad that there isn't a Seattle team, but that's okay. I will say not yet. Yeah, we're just starting off. But I will say, rugby is one of those sports that every time it comes on during the Olympics, I'm tuned in. I don't know what the heck is going on, but like it keeps your attention. So I am excited to learn more about the sport because it is really fun to watch. And I love that, my introduction to it is through like a women's league. So I'm excited about that piece.
Yeah, Banshee is my team. Like the logo.
The logo is kind of scary.
The
like,
Banshee.
I don't want to see that in the dark.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a hard time when we get a Seattle team. Like, I want to actually buy like a hat or something with this on. I think it's so badass.
It is.
I'm conflicted first and foremost because like
naturally,
just seeing all of them, like it's giving really hardcore fourth wing, like lightning. There's Onyx. Like I'm almost like Onyx. I'm almost going Denver Onyx because does that mean Zayden Ryerson will show up to a game? Like I'd go. But if not, I'd also go for the sport. But if I was not deep in the throes of a fantasy romance novel, I think I'd actually go with Gemini because Gemini Moon over here, and that is just giving sassy energy. Like, watch out.
Yeah,
watch out. That's all I got.
I have a question. Have the teams been like drafted? How does that work? Do you happen to know?
So I don't have the list of like names of who's playing, but the season starting, like, they have their teams already.
Oh shit.
And because place is starting in March.
Holy fuck.
So I think we'll start getting introduced because, like I said before, I know there's a lot of great rugby players. But Alona Marsh, she's kind of like what has got me even more tuned in and excited, just because she's been like talk about the crossover between sports and pop culture. So what I'm excited about is with the launch of this season is hopefully, I'm guessing their social media teams are going to be on point. If this is how they're rolling out their like logos and stuff, as we're about to like meet and get to know some badass women's rugby players to like follow. So yeah, all of these logos are great. I think it's definitely something out of all the like other like sports that I follow with women's sports that are launching new leagues. I feel like rugby is one that I'm like, I can fucking get into this. Like, I like soccer, but soccer is not one that I'm like, let me get into watching soccer on TV because like that's never been like. But rugby, I'm like, I'm like rooting for all these teams, even the Exiles, like the hooded, like it's giving like assassin and stuff. I'm like, this is fucking cool. So, anyways, I'm excited. Everyone, stay tuned, support women's sports, but.
Yeah. Well, sadly, I think that's a wrap for the pod today. Love rug though. Love rugby. Love rug. Love rug. I mean, let us know what stories you want to hear, but also like let us know what your favorite logo is for the rug.
Not the rug.
Just under comment.
I don't love that rugby.
Okay.
The word.
Just, you know what? Why do we have to take down girls who are creative? Okay. Well, it's a TikTok joke. So just let us know on our Instagram, TikTok. I'm on social media, but apparently if you're over the age of 33, you can't hang.
Wow.
Anyway.
I'll read you back.
Oh my God.
Don't forget that comment. I'm actually not going to forget. But don't forget to hit follow and subscribe to our show on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple, or turn on notifications so you can stay up to date on all the latest sport and society stories.
And please rate the pod. But in the meantime, stay sharp, stay sassy, and we'll catch you later.
Stay sassy, you guys. Like,
sassy.
You gotta always stay sassy.